The heavy oak door of Blackjack's Roadhouse slammed open so hard it bounced off the wall. Every conversation died. Every head turned. Standing in the doorway was a little girl, maybe 6 years old, barefoot, her pink pajamas torn at the knee, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. Her chest heaved with desperate breaths, tears streaming down her dirt-smudged face. And when she opened her mouth, the words that came out made every man in that bar feel their blood turn to ice. "Please help me. They're killing my mama. Please, somebody help." Her voice cracked on the last word, dissolving into sobs that shook her tiny frame. Before we dive into this story, if you believe that sometimes the right words at the right moment can change everything, hit that subscribe button. And drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, because this story is about what happens when strangers refuse to look away. Blackjack's Roadhouse sat on the outskirts of Bakersfield, California, the kind of place that didn't advertise and didn't need to. If you knew about it, you were supposed to be there. If you didn't, you kept driving. The building was all weathered wood and neon beer signs, with a gravel parking lot full of motorcycles that cost more than most people's cars. Inside, the air smelled like whiskey, leather, and motor oil, with classic rock playing from speakers that had been there since the 1980s. The clientele consisted entirely of Iron Riders motorcycle club members and the women who loved them. No tourists, no weekend warriors, just brothers who'd earned their patches through loyalty, sacrifice, and the kind of bonds that couldn't be bought or faked. Tonight was Thursday, which meant church night, the weekly meeting where club business got handled, disputes got settled, and the Brotherhood reaffirmed what they stood for. 18 Iron Riders filled the bar, ranging from Maverick, the 58-year-old president with silver hair and a face like weathered stone, to Nitro, the youngest patch member at 27, still eager to prove himself worthy of the colors he wore. They just finished discussing upcoming charity rides, maintenance on the clubhouse, and a brewing territorial issue with the club 2 counties over when the little girl burst through the door. Maverick was on his feet before his beer hit the table. In his 35 years wearing the patch, he'd seen a lot of terrible things, but the sight of a bloodied child in pajamas screaming for help bypassed every protocol and procedure the club had. "Who's hurting your mama, sweetheart?" His voice was gentle despite the scars on his knuckles and the skull ring that could double as brass knuckles. "Mama's boyfriend." The girl could barely get the words out between sobs. "Him and his friends. They're hitting her so much. There's so much blood. She told me to run, and I ran here because I saw the motorcycles, and motorcycles mean tough people," and her words tumbled over each other in desperate panic. "Where?" Maverick asked, already moving toward the door. Behind him, every brother was standing, faces grim, hands instinctively checking for phones, keys, anything that might be useful. "The yellow house." The girl pointed down the street with a shaking hand. "The one with the broken fence and the dead flowers. Please hurry. Please, they're so loud," and Mama stopped screaming, "and that's worse, that's so much worse." They heard it then. Even from 3 blocks away, they heard it. Shouting, crashing, the unmistakable sounds of violence echoing through the California night. "What's your name, baby?" Maverick asked as they moved. 18 bikers surrounding the tiny girl like a protective wall. "Emma," she whispered. "Emma Louise Harper. I'm 6 3/4. "You did so good, Emma," Maverick said, pulling out his phone. So good. "You're the bravest girl I've ever met." To his sergeant-at-arms, a mountain of a man called Titan, he barked, "Call 911. Tell them domestic violence in progress, child involved, and we're not waiting for them to show up." They reached the yellow house in under a minute. It was exactly as Emma described, a run-down rental with a sagging porch and windows covered in sheets instead of curtains. The front door stood open, and the sounds coming from inside made Maverick's stomach turn. A woman's voice, hoarse from screaming, begging. A man laughing. The sickening thud of fists hitting flesh. "Emma, stay with Nitro," Maverick ordered. "Do not come inside, no matter what you hear." But Emma grabbed his vest with both small hands. "Save my mama. Please save my mama." "I promise," Maverick said, and he meant it with every fiber of his being. Torch, a former Marine with a prosthetic leg and zero tolerance for cowards who hurt women, was first through the door. What he saw made him wish he'd brought more than just his fists. The living room was destroyed. Furniture overturned. Beer bottles and drug paraphernalia scattered across a coffee table. And in the center of it all, 3 men stood over a woman curled on the floor. She wasn't moving. Blood pooled beneath her head. One of her arms bent at an angle that arms shouldn't bend. "Step away from her," Torch said, his voice carrying the kind of command that came from ordering men into combat. Right now, the boyfriend, a wiry tweaker with homemade tattoos and wild eyes, spun around. "Get out. This is my house." "Actually," said Gage, pulling out his phone and showing a photo of the lease he'd found on public records during the 30-second walk to the house. "This lease is in Melissa Harper's name. You're just a guest, and you're about to be an arrested guest." One of the boyfriend's friends, a heavy-set man with a black eye that suggested he'd been on the receiving end of violence recently too, tried to bolt for the back door. He made it 3 steps before Axel, a former college linebacker turned motorcycle mechanic, clotheslined him so hard the man's feet left the ground. "Nobody's leaving," Maverick announced, stepping fully into the room. "Police are on the way. You 3 are going to sit down, shut up, and wait for them." The boyfriend, whose name according to the mail scattered on the floor was Brandon Keyes, pulled a knife from his waistband. "You can't tell me what to do in my own house. That bitch had it coming. She tried to leave me. Nobody leaves me." Emma's voice came from the doorway, small and broken. "Mama." Melissa didn't move, didn't respond, just lay there, broken and bleeding. "Is she dead?" Emma whispered, and the despair in her voice made 18 hardened bikers feel tears prick their eyes. Maverick knelt beside Melissa, pressed 2 fingers to her neck, and felt the faintest flutter of pulse. "She's alive, baby. She's alive." He looked at Titan. "We need that ambulance now." Brandon made the worst decision of his life. He turned toward Emma, knife still in hand, his face twisted with rage. "This is all your fault, you little brat. If you'd stayed in your room like I told you." He didn't finish the sentence because Torch moved faster than a man with a prosthetic leg should be able to move, grabbed Brandon's knife hand, and twisted until something snapped. The knife clattered to the floor. Brandon screamed. "You threatened a child," Torch said quietly, his face inches from Brandon's. "In front of 18 witnesses. That's not just assault. That's attempted murder of a minor. You just added 20 years to whatever sentence you were getting." Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Red and blue lights painted the walls through the open door. For patrol cars, and an ambulance screamed to a stop outside. Officers poured in, guns drawn, and took in the scene. 3 men on the floor, one with a broken wrist, 18 bikers standing calmly with their hands visible, and a woman unconscious in a pool of blood. Detective Carmen Rodriguez arrived 6 minutes later, recognized Maverick immediately, and let out a long breath. "What happened here?" Maverick gestured to Emma, who was being held by Nitro, her face buried in his leather vest. 6-year-old ran into our bar screaming that her mother was being murdered. We responded, found these 3 beating Melissa Harper to death. We restrained them and called you. He's lying. Brandon shrieked from where officers were handcuffing him. They broke into my house and attacked us. I was defending myself. Detective Rodriguez looked at Brandon's bloody knuckles, at his 2 friends who both had fresh bruises on their faces from hitting Melissa, at the drugs on the table, and at Melissa's broken body. "Sir, you have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it." The paramedics worked on Melissa for what felt like hours, but was actually 8 minutes. Multiple skull fractures, broken ribs, internal bleeding, fractured arm, and severe trauma to her face and torso, one reported grimly. "She needs surgery immediately. This is life-threatening." Emma tried to follow her mother into the ambulance. A paramedic held up a hand. "Family only in the ambulance. Honey, we need room to work." "She's 6 years old," Maverick protested. "You can't leave her here alone." "Rules are rules," the paramedic said, not unkindly, but firmly. That's when a black sedan pulled up and a woman in a bathrobe, dress slacks, and slippers got out. Judge Patricia Morales, family court, looking like she'd been woken up 15 minutes ago, which she had. "I'm issuing an emergency custody order," she announced, pulling official-looking papers from her bathrobe pocket. Emma Louise Harper is to be placed with whichever responsible adult she chooses until her mother recovers or other arrangements are made. Everyone stared. Detective Rodriguez found her voice first. Your Honor, with all respect, it's 11 p.m. on a Thursday. How are you even here? Titan called my personal line, Judge Morales explained. Told me a little girl had saved her mother's life and needed someone to return the favor. I was that little girl once, 30 years ago. Bikers saved me when nobody else would. I pay my debts. She knelt beside Emma. Sweetheart, you need someone to take care of you while your mama gets better. You can pick anyone here, or we can find you a nice foster home. What do you want? Emma looked at all the scary-looking men with their leather and tattoos and hard faces. Then she walked straight to Maverick, the president, the scariest-looking one of all, and raised her arms. You promised to save my mama. You kept your promise. Maverick picked her up like she weighed nothing, this tiny girl in his massive tattooed arms. Can you take care of me until Mama wakes up? Emma asked, her voice small. Yeah, baby. We got you. Brandon laughed from the patrol car, hysterical and mean. You're giving custody to a biker? That's insane. He probably has a record longer than my arm. Judge Morales smiled coldly. Actually, Mr. Maverick Chun has 0 criminal record, owns 3 successful businesses, has 2 grown daughters who are both lawyers, and serves on the board of a children's charity. Mr. Keys, on the other hand, has 2 prior domestic violence convictions, a drug possession charge, and is currently on probation. So yes, I'm giving custody to the biker. Problem. Brandon's friends, seeing which way the wind was blowing, started talking immediately. This was all Brandon's idea. He's been beating Melissa for months. We tried to stop him tonight, but he went crazy. He said if she tried to leave again, he'd kill her. Shut up. Brandon screamed. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Detective Rodriguez smiled. Please, continue, gentlemen. I'm recording everything. They told it all. Brandon had been abusing Melissa for 18 months. Started with emotional abuse, escalated to pushing and shoving, then full beatings. Tonight, Melissa had finally worked up the courage to tell him she was leaving, taking Emma, and never coming back. Brandon had called his friends over for backup, and they'd spent 2 hours beating her while Emma hid in her closet. When Melissa told Emma to run, to find help, Brandon had tried to stop her. Emma had bitten his hand and run barefoot through broken glass to get away. That little girl saved her mother's life, one of the friends admitted. Melissa would be dead if Emma hadn't run. At the hospital, doctors operated on Melissa for 9 hours. The Iron Riders set up camp in the waiting room. They took shifts staying with Emma, who refused to sleep, terrified that if she closed her eyes, her mama would die. She drew pictures for each biker with crayons the nurses provided. A dragon for Torch because he was brave. A bear for Titan because he was big and protective. A phoenix for Gage because he was smart and could fix anything. And for Maverick, she drew a knight on a motorcycle, rescuing a princess from a dragon. My mama always said bikers are dangerous, Emma whispered while coloring. But you saved us. How come you saved us if you're dangerous? Maverick chose his words carefully. Sometimes dangerous people protect good people, Emma. The world isn't simple. Sometimes the scariest-looking folks are the safest ones to run to when you need help. Melissa survived surgery, but slipped into a coma. Days passed, then a week. Emma never left the hospital, and neither did the Iron Riders. They rotated shifts, making sure someone was always there. They brought Emma clothes, toys, books. They made sure she ate, bathed, did her homework that teachers sent to the hospital. They became her family when her only family lay unconscious in a hospital bed. Brandon made bail after 10 days. His wealthy parents, horrified by the publicity, but still convinced their son couldn't possibly be a monster, posted $250,000. The conditions were strict: no contact with Melissa or Emma, house arrest with ankle monitor, surrendered passport. Brandon violated the restraining order within 6 hours. He showed up at the hospital at 2 a.m., drunk, demanding to see Melissa. Security called the Iron Riders before calling the police. By the time Brandon made it to the parking garage, he found himself surrounded by 15 very angry men. I just want to apologize, Brandon slurred, swaying on his feet. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I love her. She doesn't want your apology, Maverick said coldly. She wants you in prison where you belong. You can't keep me away forever, Brandon threatened. Eventually, the bikers won't be here. Eventually, she'll be alone. And when she is, he drew a finger across his throat. That's when Emma appeared at the garage entrance, having followed the bikers down when she woke up and found them gone from the waiting room. Brandon saw her, and something in his drug-addled brain snapped. He pulled a gun from his waistband, pointed at the child who'd ruined his life by having the audacity to seek help. This is all your fault, you little brat. Maverick didn't think, didn't calculate odds, didn't consider consequences. He just moved, stepped directly between Emma and the gun as Brandon's finger tightened on the trigger. The shot echoed through the concrete garage like a thunderclap. The bullet hit Maverick in the chest, high on the left side, spinning him around but not dropping him. If you believe that real men protect children no matter the cost, and that sometimes heroes wear leather instead of capes, hit that subscribe button right now and drop a comment telling us you believe in second chances for both the broken and the brave. Titan and Torch hit Brandon before he could fire again, driving him to the ground so hard his head bounced off concrete. The gun skittered away. Gage kicked it across the garage, then knelt beside Maverick, who'd collapsed against the car, but remained conscious, his hand pressed to the bleeding wound. "You got shot for me," Emma whispered, crawling to him despite the blood, despite the chaos. "You got hurt saving me." "Just a scratch, baby girl," Maverick lied through gritted teeth. "Takes more than one bullet to stop an old biker." Police arrived to find Brandon unconscious, the gun bagged as evidence, and Maverick being loaded into an ambulance while refusing to let go of Emma's hand. "She stays with me," he insisted. "She's scared. She stays." The paramedics didn't argue. They'd seen enough that night to know when rules needed breaking. Brandon was charged with attempted murder of a child, attempted murder of Maverick, violating a restraining order, and illegal possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. No bail this time. His parents tried to buy his freedom again, offering Melissa $5 million to drop all charges. She woke from her coma long enough to whisper two words: absolutely not. The trial took 3 months. Brandon's lawyers tried every trick. Claimed Melissa had provoked him. Claimed the bikers had entrapped him. Claimed the gun had gone off accidentally. The jury deliberated for 47 minutes and came back with guilty verdicts on all counts. The judge sentenced Brandon to 40 years without possibility of parole. When they read the verdict, Brandon cried. "But I loved her," he sobbed. "I loved her so much." Emma, now 7 years old and healed enough to attend the sentencing, stood up in the gallery. "You don't hurt people you love," she said, her voice clear and strong. "My Uncle Maverick loves me, and he took a bullet for me. That's what love looks like." The courtroom erupted in applause. The judge allowed it, even smiled. Melissa recovered slowly. Physical therapy taught her to walk without limping. Therapy taught her that the abuse wasn't her fault. The Iron Riders taught her that she was stronger than she'd ever imagined. They paid her medical bills, her rent, made sure Emma got to school. They hired her to do bookkeeping for their legitimate businesses because she had a degree in accounting she'd never gotten to use while surviving Brandon. Emma started calling Maverick Uncle Mav. He taught her to change oil, fix motorcycles, and throw a proper punch. "Violence isn't the answer," he'd say while showing her how to make a proper fist. "Unless someone's hurting you or your mama. Then it's the only answer that matters." Melissa met a good man 2 years later. His name was James. He worked as a teacher, and he treated Emma like she was precious. He asked Maverick's permission before proposing to Melissa, understanding that the bikers were family now, that their approval mattered. Maverick walked Melissa down the aisle at their wedding. 18 Iron Riders stood as groomsmen, leather vests incongruous but beautiful next to James's suit. Emma was the flower girl, throwing petals with fierce determination, making sure every inch of that aisle was covered because her mama deserved everything perfect. "You saved us," Melissa told Maverick at the reception, watching Emma dance with her new stepfather. "I don't know how to thank you." "You already did," Maverick replied. "You survived. You thrived. You taught Emma that asking for help isn't weakness, it's strength.